Welcome back to Terror and Urban Myths, everyone. Tonight we're heading south of the border to the mountains of Oaxaca,
Oh, Oaxaca.
a place known for its beauty, vibrant culture, and ancient traditions.
Beautiful place.
But beneath that beauty lies a darkness. The chilling legend of a pact made in a hidden cave, a promise of prosperity at a terrible cost. And if you enjoyed tonight's story, remember to hit that subscribe button and give this episode a like.
This legend isn't just some scary story, though. It really gets at that very human desire, the need to protect our families, ensure their well-being.
Right.
But it also asks a difficult question. How far would we go to achieve that? What are we willing to sacrifice?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the legend begins with a young boy, just 8 years old,
8 years old. Wow.
awoken in the middle of the night by his grandfather. Imagine the confusion, the fear he must have felt as he's led through the darkness to a secluded cave.
Oh, yeah. I can only imagine.
Yeah.
So what's his cave like?
Well, it's described as being dimly lit by moonlight, creating this really eerie and unsettling atmosphere. And here in this cave, the grandfather performs a ritual. He sacrifices a white chicken and chants in a language the boy doesn't understand.
A very mysterious ritual.
It really is. A scene that blends folklore and ritual, creating a sense of ancient power at play.
When you think about those elements, it's almost like something out of time,
Right.
Something very, very old.
Exactly. And the next morning, something remarkable happens.
Oh.
The boy's grandmother, who had been gravely ill, suddenly recovers.
Wow.
And as if that weren't enough, a truck arrives.
A truck. What's in the truck?
Laden with provisions, toys, everything the family could possibly need.
Wow. That's incredible. So it seems like things are turning around for them.
On the surface, it appears to be a happy ending, a miracle recovery, and a family lifted from poverty.
Mm-hmm.
There's a catch. The boy's parents are never heard from directly.
Oh, what do you mean?
No letters,
Yeah.
phone calls, just the grandfather's word and a steady stream of gifts.
So there's no real proof that the parents are okay.
Exactly. And it's this silence that begins to plant seeds of doubt.
Yeah, I can see why. Where are the parents? What role did they play in securing this newfound wealth?
Right. It's a really good question.
Makes you wonder.
Years pass. The boy grows up surrounded by this unexplained prosperity. But the lack of his parents, those unanswered questions, continue to haunt him.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And as the grandfather ages, becoming frail and withdrawn, the boy begins to see him in a different light.
How so?
Well, grandfather becomes a figure of both love and suspicion.
Yeah.
He's the provider, the one who seemingly secured the family's future.
Right.
But he also carries the weight of a secret, a burden that seems to be eating him alive. This duality adds another layer to the story. The idea that even those who love us can keep things hidden, things that might have terrible consequences.
Secrets can be very dangerous.
They can. And as the grandfather nears the end of his life, the truth begins to unravel.
Oh, boy.
Strange occurrences start to plague the family. Dogs howl incessantly, horses neigh as if in terror, and this unsettling clang of metal chains echoes through the night.
That's creepy.
It really is. And these unsettling events, they're more than just spooky background noise.
I would imagine so.
They signal a shift in the narrative, a sense that the pact made years ago is coming due. The grandfather's actions have unleashed something, and now it's demanding its price.
That's a terrifying thought. Whatever he bargained with in that cave years ago wasn't a benevolent force.
Driven by these strange events, the boy decides to check on his dying grandfather.
Oh, no.
And what he finds is truly horrifying. The old man's body is covered in bruises, deep and inexplicable marks that suggest a violent struggle with an unseen entity.
So it seems like whatever the grandfather made a deal with, it's not done with him yet.
It's a chilling reminder that some things are better left undisturbed. The pursuit of prosperity, even for the well-being of loved ones, can have unintended consequences that can haunt us for generations.
It's a cautionary tale for sure, about the limits of our control, the dangers of ambition, and the hidden costs of our choices.
And for the boy now, a man left with this legacy of prosperity and unease, the question remains, what will become of him? Has he inherited not only his grandfather's wealth, but also the burden of his pact?
And that question, I think, is at the heart of what makes this legend so compelling. It leaves us with a sense of unease, this feeling that the story isn't truly over. The pact made in that cave years ago continues to cast a shadow, and its full implications are yet to be revealed. It's interesting how this legend plays on our expectations. At first, we think the grandmother's recovery and the family's wealth are blessings.
Right.
But as the story unfolds, those blessings start to feel more like a curse.
It's like that old saying, be careful what you wish for.
Exactly.
The grandfather might have gotten what he desired, but at what cost? The absence of the boy's parents, the strange events, the grandfather's tormented final days, it all points to a price much greater than anyone could have anticipated.
And it's not just the grandfather who pays the price. The boy growing up in the shadow of this pact is deeply affected too. He's denied a normal childhood, haunted by the mystery of his parents' disappearance.
Right. And left to deal with the unsettling legacy of his grandfather's actions.
Makes you wonder about the true nature of sacrifice. Is it really a selfless act if it ultimately brings more suffering than relief? And what does it say about our values if we're willing to make deals with unknown forces, risking not only our own well-being, but the well-being of our loved ones too?
This legend doesn't give us easy answers.
No, it doesn't.
It presents us with a series of unsettling questions. What would we be willing to sacrifice for the well-being of our family? And how can we be sure that our actions, even those born out of love and desperation, won't have unforeseen and devastating consequences?
It's a reminder that the line between good and evil, between blessing and curse, isn't always clear. Sometimes what we see as good fortune can be a mask for something far more sinister. And the choices we make, even with the best intentions, can have ripple effects that extend far beyond ourselves. The legend also taps into a very deep fear. The unknown. This unseen presence in the story represents the forces that lie beyond our comprehension. The mysteries that lurk at the edges of our understanding. It's a reminder that despite all our advances in science and technology, there are still things in the world that we cannot explain, powers that we cannot control.
And it's that sense of the unknown, that feeling that something's lurking just beyond our perception, that makes this legend so chilling. It plays on our primal fears, reminding us that we're not always in control, that there are forces at work in the universe that operate according to their own rules we may never fully understand.
It also challenges us to consider the consequences of our actions, not just for ourselves, but for future generations. The boy in the story inherits the legacy of his grandfather's pact. He's forced to live with the consequences of a choice he had no part in making.
Right.
It begs the question, what are the unseen burdens we carry, passed down from those who came before us? And what will we, in turn, pass on to those who come after?
It's a sobering thought. The idea that our actions can have implications that extend far beyond our own lifetimes, shaping the destinies of generations to come. The choices we make today might not only affect our own lives, but also the lives of our children, our grandchildren, and beyond.
And that's what makes this legend so powerful. It's not just a scary story, but a reflection of our deepest fears and anxieties. The fear of the unknown, the burden of responsibility, and the enduring consequences of our choices. It's a story that stays with us long after we've heard it, prompting us to question our own values, our motivations, and the impact of our actions on the world around us.
You mentioned the boy inheriting the grandfather's burden, but there's another detail that's always stuck with me. The silence surrounding the boy's parents. We never learn what happened to them, only that they disappeared.
That's an interesting point. Their absence is so central to the story, yet we know so little about them. It's as if they've been swallowed by the same darkness that surrounds the pact, their fate forever intertwined with the grandfather's choices.
It makes me wonder if their absence is part of the price, a sacrifice made to secure the family's prosperity. Perhaps their disappearance is the true cost of the pact, a loss that can never be fully recouped, no matter how much wealth or material comfort the family gains.
That's a chilling thought. It adds another layer of tragedy to the story. Not only is the boy robbed of his parents, but their absence becomes a constant reminder of the pact's true cost. Their silence speaks volumes, echoing the unseen forces at play and the terrible sacrifices made in their name.
It raises an even more unsettling question. Was the grandfather aware of this potential sacrifice? Did he knowingly risk the lives of his own children to save his wife? Or was he too blind to the true nature of the pact he made, caught in a web of desperation and unintended consequences?
That's a question the legend leaves unanswered. And maybe it's better that way. The ambiguity adds to the story's power. It makes us confront the complexities of human motivation and the moral gray areas that exist when we face impossible choices. It reminds us that even the best intentions can lead to unintended consequences, and that the pursuit of happiness and security can sometimes come at a terrible hidden price.
The legend of Oaxaca's Dark Pact is a story that lingers long after we've heard it, prompting us to question our own values, the limits of our control, and the sacrifices we're willing to make for those we love. It reminds us that our choices today can have ripple effects that extend far beyond our own lifetimes, shaping the destinies of generations to come.
And perhaps it's also a reminder that even in a world that seems increasingly rational and predictable, there are still mysteries that we can't comprehend, forces beyond our control, and consequences that we may never fully understand.
Welcome back to Terror and Urban Myths. We've been talking about the legend of Oaxaca's Dark Pact, a story that really shows just how far we might go for the people we love and the unsettling consequences that can come after. It really is a powerful story.
It is. It's amazing how a tale like this passed down for generations can still be so relevant today.
It is. It speaks to the power of these stories. Folklore, these stories often reflect our deepest fears and anxieties, the things that keep us up at night. And in a way, they give us a safe space to explore those fears, to confront the darkness that exists not just out there in the world, but within ourselves.
You mentioned the darkness within ourselves. It makes me think about the grandfather in this story. What do you think pushed him to make that pact in the first place? Was it just pure desperation to save his wife? Or was there something more going on, some hidden ambition maybe, or desire lurking beneath the surface?
It's hard to say. The legend doesn't really paint him as a straight-up villain.
No, it doesn't.
He clearly loves his family. He's willing to do anything to protect them. But that devotion, that fierce love, it seems to blind him to what might happen because of his actions.
It's a reminder that even good intentions aren't always enough.
Sometimes the choices we make, even those made out of love, can lead us down a very dangerous path. And the consequences, as we see in this story, can be truly devastating.
And it goes beyond just individual choices, too.
How so?
This legend also speaks to these bigger anxieties that we have as a society. The fear of poverty, the desperation for healthcare, the lengths people will go to for economic security. These are themes that I think resonate across many cultures, even today.
It's like the legend is holding up a mirror to our own society, forcing us to look at those uncomfortable realities that so many face. It asks us to think about the ethical dilemmas that come up when people are pushed to their absolute limits, forced to make impossible choices in the face of suffering and desperation.
It does. It doesn't give us easy answers or simple moral judgments. It just gives us this complex and unsettling scenario, one that forces us to grapple with human morality and the difficult choices that come up sometimes when we're just trying to protect the people that we love.
One detail that keeps coming back to me is the cave. Yeah. It's not just a setting, is it? It feels like it represents something deeper.
Absolutely. Caves often symbolize the unknown, the subconscious, those hidden parts of ourselves. And in a lot of cultures, they're seen as portals to other worlds, places where the line between the living and the dead is very thin.
So the grandfather going into the cave could be seen as a journey into his own darkness, a confrontation with those shadowy forces that are inside him.
Exactly. And the pact he makes in that cave could be seen as a deal with his own inner demons. A compromise that he makes to get what he wants. But as we see, those deals always come at a price.
It's a chilling thought.
Yeah.
The idea that we might be making deals with our own darkness, giving up parts of ourselves to chase after the things that we want. And the consequences, as this legend shows us, can be really far-reaching and devastating.
And it's not always about just personal darkness either. The cave can also symbolize the structures in society that can trap us, the systems that force people into making impossible choices, poverty, lack of health care, limited opportunities. These can all feel like caves, trapping people in cycles of desperation and despair.
So the legend could be seen as a commentary on those forces in society, the ones that push people to make these kinds of pacts, the systems that create the conditions for such desperation and sacrifice.
Exactly. It challenges us to look beyond the individual choices and think about the bigger picture, the systemic issues that contribute to these kinds of situations. It asks us to really look at our own roles in these systems and what we can do to create a more just and equitable world.
The legend of Oaxaca's Dark Pact is a story that works on so many levels. It's scary. It's a warning about ambition and sacrifice. And it's a powerful statement on how society shapes our lives. It stays with you long after you hear it. It makes you question your own choices, confront your own darkness, and think about how your actions affect the world around you.
And maybe most importantly, it reminds us that even when we're scared and unsure, we can still choose to be compassionate, to fight for what's right, and to create a world where nobody has to make a deal with darkness to survive.
Well, thank you for joining us on this trip into Mexican folklore. We hope you found this exploration of Oaxaca's Dark Pact as interesting as we did. And if you enjoyed tonight's episode, don't forget to subscribe to Terror and Urban Myths and give us a like. Until next time, sleep well and remember, sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that show us our own deepest fears.